All right, we're going to get started. It's a annual meeting for Central Baptist Church. I'd like to welcome everyone that's here and that's watching online. I'm going to open the meeting with prayer, so shall we pray? Father God, please use the wisdom. Give us the wisdom that we need for our business this morning. Help us to show love and concern for others in all we do. Father, as we look toward the future and the budget for this year, help us to use your funds wisely. Help it to be for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, now, I guess the minutes were online for the fourth quarter. Unless anybody has any questions, online was also the attendance, the membership list. Larry, you're going to give a deacon's report, or you're just going to have it on what was on the line there?
No, it was sent out, so
okay.
I don't have anything to add to that.
All right. And a fellowship fund, same way. Trustees report. Alan, would you? Are
we ready?
Yes.
This morning. Good morning, everybody. Make sure, Jim McCandless, you have your popcorn over there today. That's a private joke for us. I couldn't help myself, Jim. Okay. A brief report. The Board of Trustees, which include Matt Agresti, Joe Keppel, Harry Murtha, Luke Greeley, Bob Ruddy, Rich Kugeli, and myself. The past 3 years have been extremely productive regarding projects in and around the church and at the parsonage. I think we all know that. Just wanted to remind everybody that it's been a very busy, productive 3 years here at the church. I've been hearing a lot of comments from people that as they're looking around the church and looking around, things are shaping up and looking good and looking better than it's ever been. So what a nice thing to welcome our new pastor too. I know before his arrival, that was what was discussed. We wanted to make sure the church was ready to go when you got here. So I'm confident that we can say we're ready to go. Glad to have you, Matt. As we have in the past years, we recently shared at our last business meeting a slideshow that the trustees puts together on all the projects accomplished for that particular year. We're not going to do that because we showed it last time. However, if there were people that were absent and did not get to see that video, it's like, I think there's 80 slides of the various projects that people contributed to here, both financially and physically and in many ways. And we could make sure that that video gets to you if you'd like to see it. The responsibility to maintain safety and security at our church building and the parsonage and the grounds they sit on is a far-reaching and an extensive task, never ending really. It just keeps going and going. A lot has been accomplished in recent years. We give thanks to God, first and foremost. He has his hand on this church, and I think we are all witnesses of that. So we give thanks to God always, and each and every one who participates financially, physically, and prayerfully in keeping this iconic and historic church in top shape. So we thank you for that. Having caught up on many projects this past year, we now turn our attention to 2023 and future projects identified by the Board of Trustees and they include the following: a baptistry renovation or refurbishing. We have taken everything out of there, and we've lifted the wooden slats on the bottom. We've got them out. We're going to rework them. We're going to fix a small leak that's in the baptistry, and we're going to repaint it with a rubberized paint. Hopefully that'll help. And we're going to freshen it up. We also recently purchased a heating rod for $700 to heat the water in the baptistry, so that when we do have a baptismal service, it'll be ready to go. And that's being worked on now. On top of that, we also have to have the electrician come in to run a 240 wire, a new wire, that will be able to operate this new heat rod that warms the water. And while they're here, we're having them look at, I know Bob Talmadge, is he here? Oh, there's Bob. We're having them look at a few electrical sockets that Bob had mentioned to us a month or so ago, maybe a little bit longer. Some things take time, but it's on its way, Bob. Yep. Recent completion of the West Hallway ceiling work. Luke Greeley spackled and painted that, and he did a great job. You can hardly notice it. I mean, it's one of those things that when it wasn't done, you notice the big stain across it. Now it's, you walk right by, you don't even know. So thank you, Luke. Roof inspection come spring. We have a sanctuary leak that we're looking at. We don't believe it's coming from the roof, but typically they do. And it's been a long time. Storms have come. We don't know what the shingles look like up there or really what's going on up there. So we're going to plan on looking at an inspection come the spring. Right, Harry? Yeah. A big project that's coming up is the church exterior yellow trim. It's in serious need of scraping, painting, and necessary wood replacement where it's needed. This will be a large project, both in terms of work involved and the financial cost. It's in pretty bad shape, and I think it's probably the next project that we're looking at getting done. And so I'll let everybody think about that. We're still working out, trying to get some cost proposals to see exactly where we sit on the financial side. But that's going to be a big one, and hopefully we can get that done sooner than later. Pest control, squirrels and birds, we have those issues here at the church, and we have those issues over at the parsonage. It's best left to have them taken care of when we decide on the painting and the trim work. When that gets done, that would be the ideal time to plug in any holes so squirrels don't jump out at Pastor Matt, and the birds so they don't fly out at Pastor Matt and all walker-bys. I happen to enjoy seeing them, so I church birds, I love church birds. The exterior cedar shingles on the church are also showing signs of great wear. This project will be another one in terms of work involved and the cost involved to replace the shingles where needed. Now, if you look at the church from the outside, the shingles look like they're pretty good, but when you go to certain parts of the church, they don't look so good. And Harry or Joe, one of the two, I think, mentioned sections at a time because it's an expensive project for a building this size to replace cedar shingles. But if we did a small section with whatever budgeted money we can find, then that would probably be the way to go. But right now, we're thinking about the shingles, but that's far ranging out because they're still pretty good. Coming up to the end here, in the parsonage is running well. When I speak to the tenants over there, they're very happy, we're very happy, everything's happy. They did complain of some birds flying into their second floor bathroom fan vent. And so we replaced that vent and put a new vent, and now there's no more birds, so they're happy. And also there was a recent front door lock repair done on the parsonage. So those are just little things that have taken place next door. The trustees continues to support SSDS. We all know what SSDS means. Thank you, thank you. See something, do something. We're always open for suggestions and anxious to hear from you, so please let one of the trustees know if you see something that needs attention, or if you feel that it's something you can take on yourself, please do. You don't need to ask permission. This church belongs to God, but it also belongs to all the people that come here, and if we can use our individual skills that we all possess, the church greatly appreciates that. So if there's something you see that you know you can take care of, if it's whatever it might be, please feel free to do so. So that's the trustee report. Any questions or comments? I'd be glad to answer anything I can. Did I miss anything? Got it all. I always have, Kelly always has a question, so that's good.
Yeah. So when the electrician comes, would it be possible that he looks into upgrading, not just here, but maybe over in the fellowship area so that we don't blow circuits when we put two coffee pots into the same plug?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we know because our church, Kelly, is like wired out.
I get it.
Our electrical panels down in the furnace room there, and our other electrical panels down in the room, in the hallway down there, they're pretty much at capacity. So anything we do with electric, thank you, that's really appreciated. I didn't do that. No, thank you. The electric panels, whatever we do going forward, we have to consider, and I'm not an electrician, I don't know, but from what I hear from the guys on the committee or on the board, new lines would have to be, or a new service would have to come in from the telephone poles. Maybe a whole new box with circuits to go forward because everything else is used up and we don't want to endanger. So that's what it would entail. But yeah, we could do that. We can certainly ask the electrician when he comes.
Yeah, we all know it's coming down the pike. It would just be, I don't know who we ask what the cost would be so that we can start to budget for it, because I don't see electrical needs going away anytime
Right.
soon, so that's what I was asking.
Well, when John is here, who we've been using for a long time, and he's always been very good to the church. He's always come when he said he would. He's been more than fair with his pricing, and in fact, sometimes not even charging us for work done here. So we thank him for that. But when he's here, we can have a serious conversation with him, maybe about getting a new panel box, so that anything new in the church that has to be installed can run off of that instead of running off the ones that are existing that are tapped out anyway. And then we can give that report to the church. I think typically those things for a house run around $3,000 for a new service.
Right.
So I don't know what
My
a church
thing
would
is,
cost, but,
once we at least see what the cost is,
right?
then we
Put
can
some money aside.
start to budget,
Yeah.
yeah, so that we know moving forward, I'm not saying immediately, but we
Yeah.
know what to set aside.
Nothing is immediate. We want it to be, believe me, we want it to be, but it never seems to get that way. But the same way with the budgeting for the trend, the yellow exterior trend. We're gonna have to figure out how as a church to fund that. So suggestions, we'll take them if you think about it, and we'll get that going in the next 6 months.
I'd like to thank the Board of Trustees. What a great team. I mean, that was really fantastic. But especially shout out to Bob and Alan, because for some of the new people in the church, there was a banner that was hung in our fellowship hall over the TV. I don't know if anybody noticed it this morning, but that banner was, thank you. There was a banner that was hung over the TV in the fellowship hall, and that banner was in memory of my mom. I don't know if anybody, we have new people, and anyway, it was money donated to Violet, and we purchased 3 banners. So they will be in the fellowship hall, and they will be changed. I think 3 of them we have. We have 3, but they adorn, because my mother was social. She loved to talk, and to have those banners there, it's a perfect place for Vi and in there. But I would love to, I just wanted to thank Bob and Alan for hanging them, because it took a while, but we got it done, because that's the A-team here, and we do appreciate it. Thank you.
Kim has a question.
Quick question, when you're doing the baptistry, you're not doing anything to the painting, correct?
No, we're not doing, thank you for that question. I should have said something. Nothing is being touched on the painting.
Okay.
It's basically where the water comes up, the walls, where the water comes up about this high, I think.
Right.
Anything up above that is going to
Perfect.
remain the way it is.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and for those people that don't know, that's a professional painter. I can't, Sherman or something, someone here may know the name, but it was a professional artist who painted this baptistry scene, and it's quite beautiful. I've always enjoyed looking at it. So we won't want to touch that. Who else now? Somebody over here.
Hi.
Hi.
Getting back to the electric and the roof, I know that the state of New Jersey is offering all kinds of bonuses and incentives for solar. And since we're talking about the roof and not knowing what the roof needs, after we put a drone up there, maybe we'll know if things need to be replaced or fixed on the roof. There's a whole new kind of solar that involves roof tiles. It might be something worth thinking about in the long term, that if we can get solar on this roof, which is an extensive roof and certainly exposed to the sun, as there are no trees that tall anymore around here, we could perhaps save on electric and do it at a relatively low cost, since the state does. I don't know if they do it for institutions or only for private concerns, but it's something to think about.
Yeah, well, let's have the conversation amongst ourselves, and then, we can talk to the trustees, and then at our next meeting, we'll be sure to bring it up and hear what people have to say. Because decisions like that are made by all of us, not by the board of trustees. We all have a say in that, so that sounds like a good idea to me. Thank you, Linda. Good idea. Yeah. Well, if there's no more questions, the popcorn must be gone by now, right? Pull it up. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Mission and evangelism report, anything anybody wants to say about that?
Nothing else. The report is submitted. Nothing else.
Okay. And Christian education, that was done too also. Are there any questions on any of these reports that you have? Pastor, you want to give your report now? That was on the list, but I don't know whether you want. Okay, all right. So that if there are no questions, and I haven't forgotten any committees, I don't believe, we'll need a motion to accept the reports. Okay, Michelle, second. Bev. Yeah, Bev, in a former life. All right, so that takes care of that.
I'd like to make a comment about the music report, if I might.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank the whole music team and everybody who's involved with planning music, because, just thank you to all the people who are involved in music and the planning. And there are quite a few times where there are things going on behind the scenes that, need some finessing. And just everybody's willingness this year especially, I thought, to just kind of go with the flow and pick up where, you know, there were holes or whatever it might be, was really, really, really helping it to run smoothly in my mind. So I just wanted to thank everybody for that.
All righty. Now on the list, next is the 2023 budget. Did you want to come up, Jim? And
Harry?
yes.
You need to take a vote on the reports.
Okay, I'm sorry. All those
And the minutes. Yes.
of passing the reports and the minutes, say aye. Opposed? Okay, it's passed. All right, so Jim, come on up and we'll do the budget.
Morning, everyone. I don't think my report is quite as entertaining as the trustees, unfortunately, so you don't need any popcorn for this one. But we did have a good year, so we'll review the 22 year first, and then we'll go on to the 23 budget. So we got our first slide here. That's the revenue for 2022. We see that we've got total income of about $221,000 versus a budget of $191,000, so we were $30,000 above our budget, about 16% above budget for 22. You can see most of that was offering envelopes, was $31,000 above budget. That was about 24% above, 24% above budget. Go to the expenses. We had total expenses of $176,000 versus a budget of $181,000, so we were $5,000 below on our spending, which is about 3% below, largely due to administrative expenses. They were down about $8,000. We did have some offsets to that, but net, we were $5,000 below in our spending for the year. Looking at the surplus now, so we have the $221,000 of income for the year, and then that $176,000 that we just saw on the spending side was broken out into those other categories in the red. So you see the pastoral, building, our interim pastor expenses, administration, missions and evangelism, music and equipment. So when we net those $176,000 against the $221,000 in income, we're left with a surplus of $46,000. And we'll talk more about what we anticipate or try to do with that surplus in a few minutes. Looking at the renovation account, we pretty much broke even for the year on our giving and spending. We had about $13,500 on the giving side and about $13,800, I think it was, on the spending side. So we were just slightly under a slight deficit in that account. Looking at the bank balances, so we started the year $156,000 and we ended the year at $202,000. So we increased our savings accounts, our checking accounts, by $46,000 year over year. Looking at the parsonage project, so we finally met our goal. We started out a couple years ago with $50,000 that we needed to raise in order to fix up the parsonage, so we can see that we finally have reached that goal. We've hit the $50,070 actually, and there's funds actually still coming in. So that's a great story. So just to go back a little bit to the offering envelopes, so this is a chart that just shows the giving, how it's increased, how we've gotten more giving units in church now, and we have more giving overall. And this is just pretty much from what I call with paper giving, checks and cash. This not has to do with the online giving, but the offering envelopes, it's up about 8 giving units, and that equates to about $36,000 more year over year in our giving. So to recap 22, we've ramped up our giving by about 16% above budget, 21% over prior year. We've reduced expenses by $5,000 below budget. We retained a net operating surplus of $47,000, and we'll talk about that next. We've reached 100% of our parsonage project goal, and we've realized bank balances of $202,000, up $46,000 from prior year. So now, we said we wanted to discuss, so we have that $47,000 surplus. So at the last budget committee, we were discussing what we wanted to do. So what we thought we would do is take $40,000 of that $47,000 surplus and sort of create a new parsonage fund. We were going to put $15,000 in this parsonage fund, and then to bolster up our restoration fund. As we've heard, we've got a lot of projects indoor and outdoor for restoration purposes. So we wanted to bolster that by about $25,000 and to create the new parsonage fund for $15,000. So as you see, we start out with the $202,000, $156,000 in the operating account. So if we reduce that by the $40,000, we still have $116,000 left in the general operating account, which is still a healthy balance for our size church, for our budget. The parsonage reserve fund, that would be in case, we had a tenant, we had a lapse in the tenant for a few months or so this would sort of cover that. So we would have this reserve fund for $15,000. Again, we would bolster the restoration from $46,000, that would take that up to $71,000. So the bank balances still remain the same, still $202,000. It's just sort of reallocating those balances. Okay, so that's the end of the 22 financials. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that before we go into the budget? Josh?
One thing to point out, the reserve for the parsonage fund, the idea was to keep that as a steady amount of money, so that wasn't going to be coming in or going out, it was always a baseline.
Right, and then if we have another surplus in 23, which we're hoping for, we can even build on that reserve. But this is an initial amount, right? Minimum amount. Okay, sure. All right, so moving on to the 23 budget. So we built some assumptions into the budget. So what we anticipate is a net overall 3% projected increase over the 22 baseline. And that would include a full year's worth of net parsonage rental income. So we're getting $3,700 a month, so that would equate to about $44,400 for the year, and then we have real estate taxes between maybe $4,000 and $5,000 that we'll have to incur. So that would give us a net of about $39,400. And again, we've got a 4% giving increase over the baseline baked in, if you will. On the expense side, so we've got some expense growth and we've got some initiatives. So on the expense side, growth, we've got utilities, energy expenses are going up, there's inflation that's going to boost up our utilities by about $3,000 we anticipate. Missions, as we know, we tithe on our prior year giving, so we're going to take 10% of what we took in for 22 and use that for the missions for this year. So that would be about $3,500 increase. And then we have a pastoral compensation package increase, and so that was calculated at 5%. For new initiatives, so we wanted to add a few positions for next year, and so that would be a youth coordinator and a nursery care giver. Those would be the two new positions we're looking to create. And then we have some new initiatives. So we have the evangelism and marketing. We wanted to expand that by about 1,700, and we want to also add a category for youth group. That would be about $1,300. And I also left out, there's I think $1,300 for the hospitality category that we're looking to expand the deaconesses to a hospitality fund. So that's the initiatives. And then that translates into the actual budget. So we look at the income, so we're going to go up to $7,000 on the income side based on the 3% jump or increase overall. We're looking to add those two positions under administration. That's the $9,000 you see under administration increase. Building and property, we've got the utilities going up by about $4,000. Equipment maintenance supplies, we're actually going to drop our technology, what we spent for this year versus last year. Missions evangelism, that's basically what we talked about for the initiatives for evangelism, and then the missions budget going up based on the tithing for 22. Music ministry is going up by 800, and then pastoral related would be the 4480. So in total, that would be a $7,000 increase on the income side and $24,000 on the spending side. So that might sound a little aggressive, maybe. That's about a 12% increase on the spending side. But if you look at it from a surplus standpoint, we're sort of at a good point right now where we'd have $245,000 worth of income versus $220,000 in expenses. So we still have a $25,000 surplus. Now, normally we do normally when we budget, we do it for zero surplus, balanced budget, if you will. So the fact that we do still have baked in a $25,000 surplus, I think that kind of makes it almost conservative in many respects. That's the last of the slides. Anybody have questions or comments? That's good or bad?
I have a question.
Yes.
Can the slides be shared so that they can be part of our minutes? Can you?
Sure, absolutely.
Can you repeat that? We don't think we heard that.
She wants,
I was just hoping that these slides could be shared so that they can be a part of our report. That way, if you want to look back on it, it's easier to see.
Yeah, if anybody wants the PowerPoint presentation, we can send that out. Sometimes it's easier to look at than all those numbers on Excel. Other questions? I guess the next step would be to vote on the budget.
Yeah, let's have a vote. Can I have a motion to pass the budget? Larry in the back. Second. Alan? All those in favor? Oppose? Abstain? All right. The new board and committee members, do you want to do that now too, along with your report? And
right. Thank you again, everyone. Thanks for being here. There were a few issues that we forgot about. One is I forgot to mention George and Ashley were left off of our member list. They are honorary members. They will be being added, so just so everyone knows. I don't want to forget about them. So this is my pastor's report. I want to start just by saying thank you. We've been here for about 8.5 months now, almost long enough to have a baby. And that's not happening. That is not happening. Yeah, I mean, I really want to say thank you to this church. You guys have made this transition and landing for us really like as good as I can imagine, and as good as we can imagine. And there are difficult things and all of that, but all in all, it's been good. You guys have been so generous and gracious and helpful and loving and forgiving and encouraging. Like, it's been wonderful. And I attribute that to, well, a few things. One, to the way that God is working in you, like in your hearts. And that's just a good thing. But I also just attribute it to the past, to the way that Pastor Dale led you to become like this, and the way Pastor George led you to become like this, and whoever's before George, right? Like, this is a church full of loving, caring, generous people, and it's been a good landing spot. I have some pastor friends who don't have that to say about their church when they change jobs. So, thank you, honestly. The other thing I want to say is thank you to all of you who serve on the boards. We heard thank you for Bob for putting your life at risk to hang, to hang the banner. For all the trustees who do things that are behind the scenes and you don't even know. Same with Christian Ed, behind the scenes you don't even know. Thank you to everyone who gives part of their Tuesday nights every month to be a part of one of those boards. It makes a huge difference. It's so good to know that the church is in the hands of such capable people. And also for me personally, it's good to have great people to work with. You're not slouches. You're good at what you do. And so thank you. I do want to lift up a few people just and say a special thanks. And that's to the 3 chairs of the boards who are stepping off of their positions now. So Larry as a board of deacon, and Jean on Christian Ed, and Josh with Missions and Evangelism. You guys have served in those positions for a long time. Josh for many years past where you were supposed to. And just thank you. Your leadership is well appreciated, and I look forward to what's next, et cetera, et cetera. However, you will all be missed in those positions. So, thank you.
Temporarily until they go back on.
Well, yeah. So thank you. Just some big time reflections on the year. One of the things I've been so impressed with about you all is your participation in things. If we have a night to decorate for the Christmas tree, such and such, you guys are there. And if we're doing prayer on the porch, it's like 95% people from Central, which is not great for the rest of the world, but it's good. But it's good for us. It's good for you. You guys are a part of things. We did that Thanksgiving Eve service at another church on Thanksgiving Eve, and it was like 90% people from Central. And you guys show up because I think there's a deep belief in you, whether you would put it like this or not, but for the church to work, you need to show up. And you do that. And that's great. And I'm proud, and I'm proud to be your pastor, and I'm humbled to be a part of that. So thank you, because that too is not always the case in other churches. And one of the most beautiful moments where I saw this was for Doris Reynolds' funeral. There was an overflowing of people looking to carry tables and set up tablecloths and food and help. It was a beautiful moment of the church coming together to care for its own. And that made an impact on me, and I was proud just to be a part of it. And so I've seen that. It's been phenomenal, and it's easy to go forward with you all because of your participation and your buy-in to what the church is doing. So thank you. But we also want to turn to what's next a little bit and to look ahead. And as I've been saying on Sundays, this year, I think for us as a church, really ought to be about discerning what God is calling us to next. And where are we going? And where is God? So we have this budget. We just talked about it. But where is God really calling us to invest? Where is God calling us to take a risk or take a loss for the sake of his kingdom? Where is God calling us to use the resources that we do have, not just financially, but gifts and abilities and position? Where is God leading us? And so I was thinking about this question, and there's 2 sort of leadership risks I want to put out there for you. Leaders lead, right? Leaders are out ahead. And there's 2 risks that I want to be careful to avoid. One is to get too far out ahead of you. And I know, if anything, that's my tendency. To make a move, make a change, do a thing, paint a wall, whatever it might be, without getting people on board, without involving. And I don't want to get too far out ahead where you're not being led anymore because I'm too far out. And so I say that just as a bit of confession for my leadership style and what I need to grow in, but also to say to you, if you feel like that's happening with me, you are free to talk to me always. And I know that sometimes I can be a little, unemotional, cold-hearted, dead inside, some would say. I'm actually not like that. I don't think, and I think if you walk into my office, and even if you say something that's really offensive to me, like, I'm not going to jump back, I'm not going to snap back at you. I want to be open and available for you, all right? But the other thing is, I want to remind you to utilize the Pastoral Relations Committee. If there are issues, not just with me, but if there's issues with the church, like things aren't going right or whatever it might be, talk to them. We had a meeting this past week where they gave me a lot of your good feedback and a lot of your negative feedback, and it was great. I appreciated all of it. I learned from it. So please, because I don't want to be a leader who just leads and gets ahead and leaves people behind. But the other risk of leadership is that you don't lead from ahead. You're just part of the pack, right? And that's not leading. That's not pushing. That's not bringing y'all forward. And so I don't want to do that also. And so I'm aware that as we take steps forward, there might be things where I'm a little bit out there ahead, and there's going to be things that you might not like, and things that might make you uncomfortable, and that at first your first response might be to like push back, fight back, argue, and that's totally fine. But it might be a situation where eventually in time you'll come around to the idea and whatnot. So I don't want to lead from too far out ahead, but I also don't want to not lead, if that makes sense. One of the things that causes conflict in churches is change, it's progress, it's moving forward. And I know that, and we all know that. And like I said, you guys have such a generous, good, loving spirit. I think we stand a really good chance of navigating what's next together because of the character that God has woven in your hearts. And so, thank you. The last thing I want to say, just as far as turning to what's next, is something that's been on my heart really for the last few months. And I've mentioned it on Sundays. The weekly thoughts on Wednesdays have really been all about this. But it's about prayer for what's next, prayer for our future, prayer for the vision of what's ahead. And so I'm not 100% sure yet what form I want this to take. But I want to start something that's really just called FOR. And it says pray for, but for. And I want us to be intentional about praying for two things. One is for the church and for its calling, its mission, its vision, its future, however you want to put that. And I want to do some different things together to be praying on the same page for that. Like, I do want to ask you as individuals to be taking up the vision and mission and future of the church into your individual prayer lives, individual prayer time. But I also want to take some steps together. Bev Kugley was talking about maybe we could do a monthly or every other week some sort of prayer gathering where we gather together, and the purpose of that is, it's not to pray in general, but it's to pray very specifically for the church and for the future of the church. So in the next week or 2 weeks, you're going to hear more about that, and we'll roll something definite out. So if you have ideas along those lines, please feel free to reach out to me, call me, text me, email me, whatever you need to talk to me, whatever you need to do, all right? That's the first little prayer initiative. But the second one is to be praying for our world. I mean, that's why I put for, in Atlantic Highlands. Praying for the Bayshore region, praying for our neighbors. And so there's some ideas I have to do that. I want to start sort of an online Facebook-ish campaign to ask people out there in the world, what can we pray for you? Like, no strings attached, no promises you're going to get, your prayers answered, no push to come to our church or anything like that. If they did, that would be great, but no push. But just, we want to be praying for actual human beings who live in Atlantic Highlands and Middletown and this area. We want to be praying for those people. And so we're going to kind of roll out a sort of online Facebook campaign. Maybe we'll do some advertising, that kind of stuff. And again, you'll hear more about that once the idea kind of solidifies more. I've already heard some really good feedback for that from the deacons who I shared this with, but please, again, feel free to give me ideas, talk to me, that sort of thing. All right? I believe that's it for me. That's my prayer. That's my pastoral report.
Do you have the list for the new people?
I can pull it up, yeah. So did everyone have a chance to review the nominees for the boards and positions and all of that? Yeah, we had a chance to look at that. Harry, do you want me to like actually go through it?
I don't know. Does everybody know who's still on the new board? Or?
Well, so I'll kind of go through it quickly. The deacons, Bob Talmadge and Joe Keppel have been nominated to be deacons. Larry is stepping off, his term is up, and there was an open slot. That's why one's coming off and two would be coming on. For the Board of Deaconesses / Hospitality, Jean Keppel was nominated, along with Bob Brooks. And if you read the report, I hope you did, there was a thing in there called OMs, which are observing members. And, just to get into this was an idea really that the nominating committee had. We have so many open positions on these boards that we really would like to fill with people who are gifted and capable and willing to be on those boards. And the problem is there's not enough active members of the church who can actually fill these boards. And one of the rules of, one of the laws in the Constitution is that you have to be a member to be on these boards. And so what they came up with was something called an observing member, which is really anyone can go to any board meeting. I mean, the deacons' meetings are closed, but Christian Ed, Mission and Evangelism, trustees, those are open meetings. Anyone can go to them. Anyone can ask questions, give their voice, give their opinion, but only members can vote if you were to vote in one of those meetings. So basically what this is these people would be operating on the board as pseudo-members, but just not able to vote. But that being said, each of the OMs are men and women who will be pursuing membership when the new membership track is available. That's also part of the deal, part of the agreement. That's a great question, Joe. So there hasn't been a membership class, I think, since George left, right? There hasn't been a new process since George left. So my plan is to roll out a new membership process / class by like the end of February. And I would hope, I don't know what March 1st is, but by March 1st to do a membership class by that weekend or whatever that would be. So anyway, that's kind of the backstory there. You could read more about that on the nominating committee report. So that's Bob Brooks would be in that category with hospitality / deaconesses. Board of Trustees, we have no one who's stepping onto that board, even though we are losing Harry, right? Harry's stepping off that board. So we are looking to fill that position. So if you haven't been nominated to be a trustee, but you feel like that's something you could do, please talk to someone. Talk to me, talk to Kelly as the nominating committee chair.
You don't have to be a man, you could be a woman.
You could be a woman. Yeah. So missions and evangelism, this is the big one. We had a lot of people coming off of this. But Matt Jensen is an OM, and Rich Kugley, and Greg Vongas, and Steve LaGrice, and Jim Genovese, and Kelly Taylor has agreed to switch over from Christian Ed to missions and evangelism. We wanted, if you notice, all of those are guys, and we wanted a woman's voice for sure. So, and Bart is the lone holdover from the from the last one. And then the Board of Christian Ed is Carol Brooks and Lori Gentry and Amanda, my wife. So those are the boards. Those are the nominations for the boards. And then I guess to fill it out, Rebecca will be moving into the position of kids and youth director, and her responsibilities as kids director overlap with the Sunday school superintendent. So she will be stepping into that role of Sunday school superintendent. For her to do that, she also has to be a member of the church, and that is part of the new business that we'll get to. And then our new church moderator will be our very own Rob Lisi, assuming you guys vote on him. And then pastoral relations, Bob Brooks is going to join that team, and then the tech committee, Katie Lisi and John Talmadge.
Can we get her with a Y? Can we get that fixed? K-A-T-Y?
We can get that with a Y. Yeah. And that's that.
Should Rebecca be on the board of Christian Ed?
It's a good question. I don't know how that works.
We weren't sure whether or not that's a conflict because she gave the position, so I don't know if she
Right. That's yeah. Yeah, Josh.
I just wondering how did she become a member? You said we have a membership class.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Constitution specifies that there's 4 ways to become a member. One of the ways is basically confession of Christian faith. That's been, I forget the wording of it exactly, but like attested to me, and then I pass her on to the deacons for their recommendation. Yes. It could. However, I would rather wait for a class for everyone else. Yeah. Yeah, so the distinction is we want to get her into this position, and it's really to expedite her to get her into the position. Yeah.
For her, it's a transfer of membership.
Yeah.
She is baptized as an adult. She was a member summer. It's just a transfer of membership. It's not as though for the first time as an adult she's professing her Christian faith.
Yeah.
How will she, what will be her responsibilities to make up the 10 hours a week?
There are 2 job descriptions available, which I guess we didn't make those available, did we? We should have put those in the report. But the position will be basically split between kids and youth. It will be to run all of the youth ministries, the youth meetings, to form the teams, to do events, to build that up, which takes hours every week to do that. One of the things that I've found with youth ministry, doing it over the years, is it happens, for every hour that it happens on a Tuesday night, there's also an hour that's happening elsewhere, that kind of thing. And then with kids, it is basically running all of the Sunday school program, equipping teachers, training new teachers and volunteers and leaders, reviewing curriculum, helping whoever needs help to prepare lessons and all that kind of stuff. And there's also, the kids' events and all of that goes along with it.
What's the distinction between kids and youth? I'm not clear on that.
Yeah, kids is what happens on Sunday mornings. Youth is what happens on, others. Right. All right.
All right, so can I have a motion to accept the passage report and the list of new people on boards? All right, Rob is made. All right, this is Romeo. Ruth, second. Old business, anything old that we've... What's it? Oh, the vote. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Any old business that we've not taken care of? Okay, we'll go to new business. Do we have anything that you want to?
Thanks again, Harry. The big piece of new business is the question of changing the name of the Board of Deaconesses to the Board of Hospitality and expanding the responsibilities. You all should have gotten those printed out pages in the last 2 weeks of programs. I don't have one up here with me. Is it in there?
The new business, the Board of Deaconesses are changing, it's on page 20.
You're right. Yep, so I'm proposing this change to make it from the Board of Deaconesses to the Board of Hospitality, and at the same time, increasing its responsibilities. So really there's two changes. One is across the Constitution, any reference to deaconesses would be hospitality, and the second change would be in Article 8, Section 5, letter C, and it would read as follows in the Constitution, which you all have in the annual report. The thing I realized about the Board of Deaconesses was a few things. One is it didn't actually reflect what the Board of Deaconesses does, because originally it didn't have that they even took responsibility for food and beverage and all of that sort of stuff. There was a lot that was kind of missing that I thought, oh, they do. We should include that as part of their role. But the other thing that's sort of included in the deaconess world is all of like the greeting and hospitality ministries. So like the door greeters and kind of decorating to make this place a more welcoming environment. That's something that the deaconesses all do or have a hand in. And so we wanted to kind of all wrap that up into one board. There's a lot of responsibility in there, to be honest. And the way I see that board working in the future is not that the deaconesses do all of the things, but the deaconesses would be responsible for overseeing those things, basically. And then the change with deaconesses, really it's confusing because deaconesses is a term that specifically refers to women, and there's no reason men couldn't or shouldn't be on that board, because men have gifts for hospitality and welcoming just like women do. And so changing that to be a little more reflective of what that board actually ought to be, that's the intention there. That's one piece of new business. Then the other piece of new business is Rebecca being a member. Do you want to
Do it separately? All right, let's do the change over first for from deaconesses to Board of Hospitality. Or make a motion. Okay, Kelly. Second. Okay, Josh. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? And now for Rebecca to become a member. Jim?
She hasn't completed the class.
What's that?
She hasn't completed the class.
Okay. Speaking for the Board of Deacons, there's nothing in the Constitution about taking a class. New members are recommended by the Board of Deacons. So the Board of Deacons discussed it. We all voted unanimously that it was appropriate, given her previous Christian experience, to, I guess, transfer her membership here. So that was why we did that. You may recall the Kugleys were also made members without really going through a class. Like you might have had some discussions with Pastor Dale. But the class is not, yeah, okay, I guess a second. The class is not a requirement. It's basically the Board of Deacons' recommendation, and the pastors is what's required in order to recommend somebody to be a member.
What was her experience? What experience did she have?
Yeah, if I can jump in, I think usually we do, with new members, they usually do, type up a little thing and it ends up in the bulletin, like just a statement of faith and a little bit about their story, usually goes in the bulletin.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps the greater majority of us, even if we're younger, to let them know more of their history and how they ended up here. It's usually like a ceremony of right in the fellowship or something. Yeah. When somebody becomes like further official, if they're not baptized, and well, even if they're baptized, transfers membership. Yeah, right in the fellowship.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, question, does that happen before or after they get voted on?
After.
Right, that happens after. That's what I would assume, right? So I would, yeah.
I just have one straightening of a fact.
Sure.
When we transferred over to Central Baptist, we did have a meeting with Reverend George, Pastor George. And so it wasn't that we didn't have a class.
Right.
There was a class when we came in. So when we became members here. Did you receive the right hand fellowship in a ceremony? Yeah, we did, stood right in front.
Yes, they did. Benediction.
Harry, you spoke on our behalf.
I understand.
So that did happen for us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I don't know any about that past, but that's good. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have the greatest of memory, but in our process of hiring Rebecca, did we receive her testimony already and go through that
Yeah,
stuff?
that is,
I mean, we
part of
wouldn't
the
have just
record.
hired anyone off the street.
Yeah.
So her testimony, and so just as far as experience goes, I just wanted to add that in.
Still the question, what's her prior experience?
That's what I'm saying. I don't remember, but I'm assuming we checked all that
yeah,
before hiring her. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'll say she was a faithful member of her previous church for at least a decade. You know, a church of like mind, and yeah.
I guess I just want to make her feel special. Like, we try to make people feel special when they join our church, and we don't want to just vote on it and like let it just be.
Yeah.
I think that's what's bothering me.
Yeah, no, I'm totally on board with doing a recognition, whatever we want to, however it's done, right hand of fellowship. I mean, I love all of that. I was just under the impression, and I still am actually, that you vote before that happens.
Yeah, but the class, you only have to take a class. So for example,
Well,
I had to take,
Well, you have to put your testimony out, you have to.
right, but her testimony's been out. But for me, because I had had baptism as an infant, I had to go through the class, and then I was baptized. There are other people who have, as adults, they just happen to belong to a different church, but they can transfer, like, they meet with the pastor, and then, you know. We still have to take a class.
so,
I had already been baptized. I transferred my membership, but I still had to take a class with Pastor George before I.
yeah.
Coming here to be an employee, so.
Well, let's just, to keep it as simple and, I think constitutionally faithful as possible. The Constitution does not mention any class. That's something that is done, I think it's a good practice, and I will institute a new membership class as part of a new process that I think is a good practice. But strictly speaking, the Constitution doesn't say anything about a membership class. But it does say about these four ways to become a member, one of which is membership transfer from another church, one of which is confession of faith for an adult who's previously been baptized. One is confession of faith and then baptism. And the fourth, I think the fourth might be rejoining the church, maybe? I forget what it is. But all of them come from the recommendation of the pastor that's approved and then recommended by the deacons. And then voted on by the membership.
What's that?
Well, I'm saying the three things you just said.
Right.
Pastor, deacons, and now.
Right. Right.
Well, she had to be here for us to vote to. Oh, no, we're trying to vote right now. No. We are trying to vote right now. Yeah. Was she hired by Park Church, or was she still a position there, or?
She became hired by Park Church. She became hired by Park Church. She didn't start out as an employee. Well, I did.
No, the question is, was she a part of the church first and then employed?
No, I just wondered if she was an employee or why she left.
Or why she left?
Was there a falling out, or was there,
It's a fair question. The church decided to go in a different direction with their children's coordinator role.
Was it because of her?
No.
Did they pick somebody new?
They did.
Did they what? Pick somebody new.
Yeah, that person's gone already. It was fraught with issues.
So we're just looking for a motion and a second.
Yeah.
I think that it would be nice if she become a member and have first, you know, I guess the process is being a little different now than what I remember. We had it go different. It doesn't take much. With Pastor George, we did a few meetings, and
Yeah. That's a fair question. I think the real value of a membership class is to introduce someone in a more formal way to what the church is all about and how the church works, and specifically to what the mission and vision of the church is, and how as a member you play a role in the mission and vision. That's what I think the class is about. With Rebecca, I've worked with her long enough, and I've known her long enough to know that anything I tell her in a membership class, she already knows. And she's been a part of this church as an intern now for 4 or 5 months, and she knows how things work. She might not know the Constitution backwards and forwards, but I'm working on that one myself. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't quote me on this, but I believe when she was 13 or 14. Yeah.
She wasn't still in the Methodist church then, because I thought she told me she went to the youth group and all that kind of stuff there.
I thought it was when she was a freshman in high school.
Okay, I mean, I could be wrong, I just know
Yeah.
when we talked about that.
Rob, yeah.
There's the option of her still attending this class. If she wants, yes. You just, so she feels like you want the group and she's.
Sure.
She's welcome to it,
Sure.
right?
Of course.
And, I guess that's it, I lost my note. I guess age is coming.
Bev, yeah.
Pardon me. I would say to people that I'm not legally defined as a Baptist. I'm Christ-centered and Bible-centered. And those are the churches that I've gone to, non-denominational and or Baptist. I had been baptized before when I went to Calvary Chapel, and they did baptisms with my 2 daughters who were then 7 and 4. We were baptized together. But anyway, that's just for a little heart, But I also know that that's real important in the Baptist community. I think we got a book, a small book about baptism, which I think I still have.
Yes, I have
I think you might like to see it. I think it was given to me here. Yeah, here we were together.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll take a look at that. But with regards to Rebecca, she has been baptized as a believing adult. Fully immersed, baptized as a believing adult. To approve her as a member.
All those in favor?
We have a motion and a second.
Oh, sorry, you got a second.
Who's the motion leader? Oh, sorry, Mark.
Who seconded it? Rob? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay, it's passed. Any other new business? We have to set a date for the first quarter meeting. And usually at the end of the month, right? So it would be the 19th or the 26th, I believe, of March? April? Oh, okay, so we're going to April.
Are either of those dates, like, oh, yeah, so it doesn't interfere with Easter's early this year. Yeah, it's early. God bless you. So it looks like the 23rd or the 30th would be logical?
Do we have a opinion, 23rd or the 30th of April? 23rd of April? Okay, so that'll be the first quarter meeting, 23rd. If there's no other business to come before us, I have motion to adjourn. Okay, Josh? Nancy, second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Have a great day.